What if I told you that you spent your whole life running away from yourself, always trying to please, to fit in, to be liked by everyone? And yes, sure, everyone might be very happy with you. Of course they are. You've been focused on them, while slowly abandoning yourself. The truth hurts, I know, but it sets you free. The Stoics already knew that. My friend, no one is going to live your life for you. Either you choose yourself today, or you'll stay stuck in a life that doesn't give you what you want. In this video, I'm going to show you why the key to getting what you truly deserve is focusing on yourself. And before you say it, no, this isn't about being selfish. It's about emotional strength. You know what the Stoics did? While the world chased validation and recognition, they returned to center, back to themselves. They cultivated inner strength, mental clarity. Today you'll learn how to apply these ancient teachings to break free from autopilot and reconnect with who you are. Because when you truly choose yourself, the universe does too. Let me say it loud and clear. You're not here just to survive or to please others. You're here to wake up. Are you ready to return to yourself? If this content is bringing you value, I invite you to subscribe and join our exclusive community. That way, you'll get access to content created just for our special members. And tell us in the comments, what part of your life are you going to reclaim without waiting for anyone's validation? Or simply write, Stoic at heart. I live for myself, not for what others expect of me. That'll be your commitment to yourself, to live the life you truly deserve. Lesson 1. Not everything deserves your energy. My friend, listen closely to this story, because it might open your eyes to where you're investing your energy. There was once an old man who lived in a village and was known for his unshakable calm. No matter what happened, he never lost his composure. One day, a young man, frustrated with his own life, decided to test him. He approached him and without warning started insulting him. You're a useless old man. Your words mean nothing, and people only listen to you because they have nothing better to do. He spat angrily, expecting to see him lose his temper. But the old man didn't even flinch. He simply looked at him with a slight smile, and with total tranquility, asked him a question. If someone offers you a gift but you don't accept it, who does the gift still belong to? The young man frowned, not fully understanding the trap. Well, to the person who offered it. The old man nodded. Exactly. And the same goes for anger, envy, and hatred. If you don't accept them, they still belong to the one who brought them. I have more important things to put my energy into. The young man fell silent. He had never seen anything like it. He had always thought he had to respond to every provocation, defend himself, strike back. But there was the old man, immune to his poison, untouched, as if nothing had happened. And here lies the key, my friend. The old man didn't allow external forces to take control of his mind. He didn't let someone else's anger become his own. Because he understood the same thing Marcus Aurelius said centuries ago. If something external bothers you, it's not the thing itself that's the problem, but your interpretation of it. An insult only has power if you choose to accept it. A negative comment only affects you if you let it in. And the energy you spend fighting others is energy you could be using to build yourself. Let's be clear. How many times have you wasted time and energy on things that, if you're honest, don't add anything to your life? You argue with someone on social media over a post that isn't even yours. You get mad because your neighbor parked their car in a different spot, even though it doesn't affect you at all. You let a broken elevator ruin your day because you have to take the stairs, even though that extra movement might actually do you some good. And then, when it's time to focus on what truly matters, you have no energy left. Imagine your attention is like a flashlight. Wherever you point it, that's where your energy goes. If you spend your day shining it on small problems, pointless arguments, and meaningless worries, you'll run out of light for what truly matters. So, if you want to become your own priority, you have to start managing your energy like what it really is, a limited resource. First, apply the 30-second rule. Before reacting to something, stop, breathe, count to 30. Ask yourself if it's really worth spending your time and energy on it. If the answer is no, move on with your life. Second, practice strategic indifference. Ignoring isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Not everything deserves your response. Not everything deserves your reaction. If someone provokes you, if something irritates you, ask yourself, do I really need to engage with this? Most of the time, the answer will be no. And third, learn to let go. If something won't matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worrying about it. Seriously, stop and think about how many times you've stressed over things that days later you don't even remember. Life is too short to waste energy on the irrelevant. Now think about this. If your energy were cryptocurrency, what would you invest it in today? Because if you keep spending it on arguments, complaints, and distractions, when the time comes to focus on yourself, you'll have nothing left. Lesson 2. No one owes you anything, but you owe yourself everything. Have you ever felt that burning frustration inside because the people you counted on weren't there for you? Like the world owed you something, for everything you've endured, for everything you gave, for all the times you stayed silent. And what did you get in return? Silence, absence, misunderstanding. Then that phrase creeps into your mind. After everything I did, this is what I get? Picture this. You come home exhausted. It's been a terrible day. No one asked how you were. No one acknowledged your effort, not at work, not in your family. You sit on the couch and something inside you explodes. Because deep down, you were hoping for something. A simple gesture, a thank you, a I see you. But it never came. So you get frustrated, you shut down, and you think, nobody appreciates me. But what if that is the problem? What if you've spent too long waiting for recognition instead of recognizing yourself? Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by applause, but also by betrayal, political pressure, and constant conflict. And still, every night, he sat down to write. Not to complain, but to remind himself of the one thing that truly belonged to him, his mind, his character, his responsibility. In one of his writings, he said, "Do what nature requires of you. Don't be distracted by anything else." Tell me, what is it that life is asking of you? That you stop waiting, that you rise up, that you take the reins because everything else you can't control. Stop placing the reward outside yourself. Stop placing the responsibility for your life in someone else's hands. If what you do isn't appreciated, so what? The Stoics taught us that the only esteem we should ever need is our own. No one owes you eternal loyalty. No one is obligated to understand you all the time. No one is responsible for healing your wounds. That work is yours. And when you take that on, everything shifts. Tell me, what is it you think the world owes you? That promotion you were promised but never got? That partner who said they'd be there forever, then left without warning? Or maybe the recognition you've been waiting on from your parents since you were a child, and still hasn't come? We've all carried that feeling of injustice at some point. As if someone owes us for what we suffered, for what we gave, for all we endured in silence. But my friend, let me say it again. The Stoics knew. Life owes you no explanations, no rewards, no comfort. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you reclaim your power. Because if you're waiting for others to give you what you deserve, you'll spend your life on pause, like you need someone's permission to move forward. And here's the spoiler. That permission is never coming. So it's time you start moving. Not out of resentment, not out of pride, but for you. Because as Marcus Aurelius said, what matters is doing what's yours to do, without getting distracted by the rest. And right now, what's yours is to stop waiting and start building. Do you see it now? The world might let you down, but you can't keep letting yourself down. Not again. Take note of this. Stop waiting to be rescued. No one's coming. That's your job. Take action, even if no one claps for you. The merit isn't in being seen, it's in not betraying yourself. And here's a key point. Make peace with the past, but stop using it as an excuse. Because the day you realize that no one except you owes you recognition, that day, my friend, is when true freedom begins. Lesson 3. Build unshakable self-confidence. Let me tell you something that probably no one's ever said to you this clearly. Confidence isn't what you post on social media, and it's not the motivational quotes you repeat in front of the mirror. Real confidence is quiet. It's built when you do what you said you were going to do, even when no one's watching. It's that feeling of going to bed at night knowing you kept your word, even if it was something small, even if no one celebrates it. You know it, and that's enough. My friend, I know it sometimes feels like confidence is some kind of superpower only a few lucky people are born with. But no, it's not like that. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you train. And if you don't believe me, listen to what happened to Lewis Howes, author of The School of Greatness. In an interview, he shared how, after an injury that ended his career in professional sports, he felt completely lost, directionless, with no self-esteem. But instead of standing in front of the mirror repeating empty affirmations, he started doing small things, learning something new, working on his communication, saying yes to interviews even though he had zero experience. And that's when he realized something crucial. Confidence doesn't show up beforehand. It's built afterward, one step at a time. And that's exactly what I want to tell you too. Telling yourself, I can do this, doesn't mean you will. But if you show up for yourself every day, even just a little, there comes a moment when you no longer have to convince yourself, because you already know. Your actions become proof, and proof becomes certainty. That's when you start focusing on yourself for real, not with noise, but with results. Seneca put it brilliantly, "He who masters himself has no need to master others." And that's exactly what it takes to truly focus on yourself, not seeking validation from outside, not trying to prove anything to anyone, just building a confidence that doesn't shake when everything else does. Picture this. You want to change jobs. You're tired, unmotivated. You know you need something new, but you don't do anything about it. Fear paralyzes you. Insecurity takes over. You think you're not good enough, that they won't pick you, that you don't have what it takes. And so you stay where you are, slowly fading, hoping that one day, out of nowhere, you'll wake up with enough confidence to finally take the leap. Spoiler alert, that day won't come on its own. So let's change that, starting today. Here are some real steps to help you start building solid confidence from the inside out. First, make a list of the promises you made to yourself this month related to your growth. Were you going to update your resume? Practice your interview answers? Learn something new? Did you do it? If not, it's okay. This isn't to beat yourself up. It's to start fresh. But this time, go one by one. No pressure, just one goal. And go for it. Second, build your confidence step by step. Something as simple as waking up when you said you would, or sticking to 1 hour of daily study, gives you strength. Because if today you do what you said you'd do, tomorrow you won't have to fake confidence. It'll come naturally. And third, shift your mindset. Don't say, I want to feel more confident for that interview. Say, I'm going, even if I'm scared. Because fear doesn't go away before you act. It fades as you take action. The only way not to let it control you is to move forward with it right beside you. My friend, just when you think you've got it all figured out, the final piece shows up. Because you can have clarity, discipline, and focus, but if you don't have this, there's a risk you'll end up right back where you started. This isn't just another tip, it's a warning. Ignore it, and you might find yourself slipping right back into the place it took you so much effort to escape. Lesson 4. Train your mind. If you stop training a muscle, what happens? It weakens, it loses strength, it becomes soft. Now tell me, my friend, what do you think happens if you stop training your mind? Exactly. It fills with automatic thoughts, distractions, and negativity. Instead of working in your favor, it starts working against you. Marcus Aurelius explained it better than anyone. Your mind adapts to what you habitually think. As your thoughts are, so will your life be. And he didn't say this as a theory. He applied it every single day. While other emperors were consumed by anger, vanity, or fear of power, he trained his mind like a warrior trains his sword. Every morning he wrote in his journal, reinforcing the ideas he wanted to govern his mind. Patience, self-discipline, clarity. Before making any decision, he asked himself if he was acting out of impulse or reason. And when the pressure of ruling an empire threatened to consume him, he returned to the essentials. I can only control my thoughts and actions, nothing else. He didn't wait for his mind to be strong by nature. He trained it every day. And if the most powerful emperor in the world needed to do it, tell me, why do you think you don't? And I'm telling you this because I've experienced it myself. For a long time, others were my priority. If someone asked me for something, I dropped whatever I was doing to help. If I got a message, I answered immediately, no matter if I was in the middle of something important. I always put others ahead of myself. And let me tell you, my friend, it took its toll on me. Now I'm training my mind to focus on myself. And to be honest, it's not easy. I set small challenges for myself. If my sister texts me while I'm focused, I don't reply right away. I wait 10 minutes. I keep doing my thing without interruptions. And don't think I don't feel tempted to check or that I don't feel guilty for not answering. But I remind myself that if I want to achieve my own goals, I must be my priority. And you know what else I'm doing? Before filling my schedule with favors for others, I plan my day first. My goals come first. If something doesn't fit into my plan, it simply doesn't make the cut. I do this because I realized something. If you don't train your mind, you will lose your focus. And since I don't want that to happen to you, I'm going to give you a few tips. First, create a mantra that reminds you that you are your priority. It can be something as simple as, my time is valuable, or, if I don't take care of myself, no one will. Write it down and repeat it every morning. Make it your new automatic thought. Second, do focus exercises. Read without distractions, without checking your phone every 5 minutes. Write by hand, even if it's just one idea a day. Solve puzzles or brain teasers, anything that forces your mind to concentrate on a single task. And third, start putting distance between yourself and the constant demands of others. If someone asks you for something, wait before responding. If you feel the urge to say yes immediately, breathe. Ask yourself, does this fit into my day, or am I saying yes out of habit? Think about it. If you don't train your mind, society will train it for you. And I guarantee you, it won't do it to help you reach your full potential. It will do it to keep you from focusing on yourself. So tell me, are you going to let others dictate the course of your life, or will you make your mind your greatest strength? My friend, there is one thing that truly separates those who try from those who succeed. If you really want to make yourself a priority, don't lose focus on what's coming next. Lesson 5. Silence the world, listen to your soul. Have you ever felt like your head is about to explode, and you don't even know why? You can't quite figure out the signals it's giving you. There's just noise. Nothing terrible has happened. No one's yelled at you, you're not in pain, there's no visible crisis. And yet your mind feels like a tangled web full of knots. My friend, that's your soul trying to speak, and you've got massive speakers plugged into everything except yourself. News, social media, notifications, gossip, all of that, yes, you notice. Because we live in the age of external noise, a world where everyone wants to be heard, but no one's listening to themselves. It's like living with 100 voices all talking at once, but none of them are yours. Just look around. On the street, how many people do you see walking while staring at their phones? In line at the supermarket, is there anyone looking anywhere other than that tiny screen in their hand? We act like it's normal, but it's not. Some people know more about their favorite influencer than they do about themselves. Ah, if Marcus Aurelius could see us now. If he saw us glued to the noise outside and completely disconnected from ourselves, he'd raise an eyebrow and ask, "Are you really trading your soul for that?" Because yes, as he himself wrote, perfect tranquility consists in the good ordering of the mind. But tell me, how can your mind be in order if you're trapped by everything external? Science communicator Marian Rojas Estape calls it digital dopamine. That quick hit we get from checking our phone, giving us a shot of pleasure. That leaves us emptier afterward, because we were born to be connected to ourselves, not to something outside. Our brains weren't built to handle constant stimulation, or to wake up and compare themselves to half the world, or to measure their worth by likes, filters, or what some stranger thinks. And I mean this seriously. You can't build yourself up if you're constantly focused on others. If every silence is filled with a screen, if you don't know how to be alone with yourself for even 5 minutes without a distraction, how are you supposed to focus on yourself, to truly know yourself, if you have more intimacy with your Instagram feed than with your own mind? This isn't a scolding, it's a wake-up call. A call to reconnect, to center yourself again on what matters, you. Tell me, what do you do when you have a free moment? Do you use it to check in with how you're really feeling, or to keep consuming what others are doing? Because I promise you, the more noise from the outside, the less clarity inside. And if you're feeling scattered, confused, anxious, maybe you don't need more motivation. Maybe what you need is silence. Look, you don't need to move to the Himalayas or throw your phone away forever. You just need small moments of presence. Simple things, done daily, that work like magic. For example, leave your phone out of the bedroom. Don't let it be the first thing you see in the morning or the last thing at night. You'd be surprised how much your mind changes when your day starts and ends in peace. Give yourself 5 minutes a day without stimulation. No music, no videos, nothing. Just you, with yourself, reflecting on your day, on your actions, like the Stoics used to do. It might feel uncomfortable at first, I know. But later, it saves you. Because that's when you start hearing yourself again. And one more thing, instead of consuming so much content, create something. Write, draw, think on paper. Even if no one sees it, even if it's just for you. Writing by hand is like wiping the fog off the mirror of your soul. It lets you see what's really going on inside. Because in a world that wants to keep you distracted, choosing silence is an act of power. It's how you return to center, reconnect with your purpose, and reclaim your energy. So tell me, are you going to keep giving your peace away to outside noise, or are you ready to take it back once and for all? Write it in the comments if you're ready to reclaim your center. Leave. Starting today, I silence the noise and awaken my soul. Let's keep going. 6th lesson. Why do criticisms affect you so much? There are things that hurt, and then there are those that don't bleed but cut you from the inside. You slice your finger while cooking. It hurts, of course it does. It bleeds a little, bothers you for a few days, but you know it'll heal. Now someone says to you, "Are you sleeping okay?" And that comment, even if it wasn't meant badly at all, sticks like an invisible splinter. There's no blood, no wound, but it hurts more. It lingers. It messes with your day. Sound familiar? What's strange is that most of the time it's not even something serious. A random phrase, a look, a shrug. But in your head, it turns into a whole drama. And the worst part, you start acting as if what they said means more than everything you know about yourself. And just like that, my friend, your life becomes a constant attempt to avoid being touched, judged, or seen in the wrong light. But living like that is exhausting. It's like being a block of ice under the sun. Every word, every glance, every opinion that hits you melts away a bit more of your confidence. And even if you look solid on the outside, inside, you're falling apart. Epictetus said it clearly. You can't control what others think, but you can control what you do with it. For him, judging or criticizing others was a waste of time, and letting those judgments affect you was even worse. He said that when someone speaks badly about you, they're really revealing more about themselves than about you. And he was right, don't you think? Because words have no power unless you give it to them. Think about it. Someone tells you, probably with good intentions, you look tired. And instead of brushing it off, you rush to the mirror. You stare at yourself, search for dark circles that weren't there before. Start wondering if you're aging, if you're worse off than yesterday. All that from one comment that was probably just an observation, not an attack. French psychologist Nicolas Perrault gave this a name: He calls it the narcissistic wound. He says we all carry a hypersensitive side that takes other people's words as personal attacks. And if we don't learn to notice where that reaction is coming from, we'll keep living in constant fear of being judged. But you're not here to keep reacting the same way. You're here to focus on yourself, to take control, to change. And that only happens when you learn to give things their real value. So next time someone criticizes you or says something that stings, pause for a second and ask yourself, is this criticism helping me or just hurting me? Is there any truth in it? Why does it hurt me this much? Sometimes there's something valuable in a critique, and other times, it's just someone projecting their own stuff. But you can't know that if you react without thinking. Another helpful exercise is mental rehearsal. Imagine someone criticizes you in public. You don't yell, you don't explain yourself. You just respond in your mind with a simple, "All right." That's it. No more. At first it'll be hard. Your ego will be screaming inside. But if you can hold that silence, you'll feel something powerful, freedom. Because when you stop needing to defend yourself all the time, when you're no longer living based on what others think, you can finally focus on what truly matters, on what you believe, on what you build, on what you decide. And if it's hard, hold on to this quote from Oscar Wilde. If we are so quick to judge others, it's because we tremble for ourselves. Maybe that'll help you realize that other people's judgments aren't always about you, and that focusing on yourself also means this: stop trembling over every criticism and start walking firmly on your own path. Lesson 7. Surround yourself with giants. Imagine that your success in life depended 95% on the people you spend the most time with. Sounds extreme, right? Well, a study from Harvard University proved exactly that. Your social circle is one of the most determining factors for achieving success. And if you think about it, it's not that surprising. Picture this. If your friends only talk about how bad everything is, the drama of the week, and how unfair life is, it's only a matter of time before you become the champion of pessimism. And this isn't magic, it's science. Our brain adapts its way of thinking to what it hears most often. And if the people closest to you have never tried to step out of their comfort zone, what do you think is going to happen to you? Seneca knew this well. We become those with whom we associate. Now imagine Seneca in ancient Rome, surrounded by people who only cared about parties, spending money recklessly, and coming up with excuses to avoid working on their minds. Do you think he would have become the great philosopher we know today? No, of course not. The people around us shape us, for better or for worse. Motivational speaker Daniel Habif puts it simply: surround yourself with spiritual giants, not mental dwarfs. And no, we're not talking about physical height, but about mental greatness. Surrounding yourself with people who have vision, ambition, and the drive to improve will change your life. People who challenge you, who inspire you, who push you to be better. On the other hand, surrounding yourself with people who have no goals, no curiosity, and no desire to grow is like tying a rock around your neck while trying to swim. Now put yourself in this situation. You've decided to improve your life, you've set clear goals, and you want to move forward. But every time you try to change, your environment holds you back. You say you're starting a workout routine, and they respond with, "Don't overdo it. Life is meant to be enjoyed." You talk about a project, and they say, "Don't get your hopes up. That won't work." In the end, their negativity seeps into your mind and you start doubting yourself. But don't worry, this isn't about running away and replacing all your friends overnight. It's about becoming more aware of who influences your life and how you can start surrounding yourself with better influences. If you want to grow, you have to filter your environment. Observe who inspires you, who motivates you, who makes you think beyond the ordinary. Spend more time with those people. Don't have anyone like that around? Find them, join communities, attend events, surround yourself with people who are already where you want to be. And if you can't do it in person, start by consuming their content. You also have to learn to say no. No to commitments with people who drain your energy. No to conversations that add nothing to your life. No to habits that only pull you further from your goals. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't help you grow, you're saying no to your own progress. And if right now you feel like you don't have a positive environment, start by creating a virtual circle. Surround yourself with books, podcasts, and quality content. Learn from the brightest minds in the world, even if you don't know them in person. Because if you fill your head with big ideas, sooner or later, you'll start thinking big too. Think about this. If you spend time with people who go to the gym, sooner or later, you'll get curious and start improving your health. If you're surrounded by entrepreneurs, you'll start learning about business without even realizing it. If you hang around people who read and educate themselves, you'll eventually absorb their knowledge. Your environment shapes your habits, and your habits shape your future. So tell me, do your friends bring you closer to the person you want to become, or pull you away from it? Because if they're not lifting you up, chances are they're dragging you down. Don't wait for others to change before you start focusing on yourself. Be your own priority and build an environment that pushes you forward instead of keeping you stuck. Lesson 8. You are not missing anything. You're already complete. Sometimes we go through life feeling incomplete, as if life hasn't really started yet, because we're still waiting for something else. That dream job, the perfect partner, more energy, the right moment. You know what I call that? The almost syndrome. I almost went for it, or I almost got the courage. It's that mental trap that keeps you postponing your life, waiting for everything to fall into place. But meanwhile, the days go by, and you're still there, looking outward, feeling like something's missing, when in reality you already have everything you need to begin. It's like frantically searching for your phone only to realize, 20 minutes later, that it's been in your hand the whole time. That's how we move through life, looking for something outside that can only be activated from within. And this was something the writer Helen Hooven Santmeyer came to understand, though not right away. For years she worked in libraries, took care of her family, and pushed her own ideas aside, thinking her moment to write would come when she had more time, when inspiration returned, when life settled down. And that when never came. Until one day she got tired of waiting. She sat down to write and finished her masterpiece at the age of 88. No one saw it coming, not even her. But she realized that everything essential was already with her. Her story, her language, her voice. She just needed to stop putting herself off. And you? How many times have you held yourself back because you thought you weren't ready? You haven't started studying because you think you're too old. You haven't started a business because you don't know how to use social media. You haven't changed direction because you feel unsupported. But most of the time, what's holding you back isn't lack of resources. It's lack of decision. So the real question isn't, what am I missing? But what can I do with what I already have? Here are 3 steps you can take starting today. 1. Write a list of everything you're good at, no matter how simple it seems. Are you good at connecting with people, solving problems? Are you a good listener? Are you patient? That's your toolkit, your invisible capital. And until you recognize it, you'll keep believing you have nothing. 2. Think of something you've been putting off. Don't look at it as this huge, impossible thing. Ask yourself, what small step can I take today to get closer? Send that email. Do a bit of research. Block out 30 minutes to focus. 3. Every night write down one thing from your day that you used to take for granted, but now value more. That quiet reading time, that peaceful meal, that unexpected message. Because when you learn to appreciate what you already have, you stop begging for what you think you lack. Epictetus put it simply, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And he didn't say that as a cute phrase to hang on your wall. He said it because he understood that when you're full on the inside, you stop spending your life chasing things outside. So, my friend, stop waiting for the world to get its act together so you can start living. Look within, use what you have, And you'll see, most of the time, it's not about something finally arriving. It's about finally realizing you were ready all along. 9th lesson. Learn to speak to yourself with respect. My friend, if you had a follower who commented on your posts every day saying things like, "You always mess things up," "You're a disaster," "You're so stupid," how long would it take you to block them? Probably less than a minute. Now here comes the uncomfortable question. What if that hater was you? Because yes, as harsh as it sounds, a lot of the time you're your own #1 hater. The one who sabotages you the most, the one who criticizes you the most, the one who talks down to you without even noticing. And the worst part is that it starts the moment you open your eyes. You look in the mirror and say, "Ugh, I look weird today." You drop something and think, "I'm such an idiot." You mess up at work and repeat, "I never get anything right." And then you wonder why it's so hard to trust yourself, to stay focused, to move forward. I'm telling you this because I used to do the same thing. There was a time when I talked to myself in a way I wouldn't talk to anyone else. If I was late to something, I'd snap, "You always screw everything up." If I forgot something, I'd think, "Of course you're a mess." I felt crushed inside and had no idea why. And it was during that time, when I was being the hardest on myself, that I came across a quote by Marcus Aurelius that completely shifted my perspective. It said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." That quote stuck with me so deeply that I've had it as my phone wallpaper ever since. Because I need to be reminded. Because when I start speaking harshly to myself, seeing that quote stops me. It reminds me that I can't move forward if I treat myself like an enemy. It reminds me that if I want to focus on me and truly change my life, I can't keep feeding thoughts that dim my light. Lisa Bilyeu, founder of Impact Theory and one of the strongest voices in personal growth, talks about this a lot. She says we all have an inner narrator, and that narrator can either be our biggest ally or our biggest obstacle. And she's right. Because if that narrator is always saying, "You messed up again," "This isn't for you," "You're worthless," how do you expect to have the strength to keep going? Now picture this. You're at home, putting together a new piece of furniture you bought with excitement. But when it's time to install one of the doors, you mess it up and put it on backwards. It's not a big deal. You can fix it. But instead of staying calm, you blurt out, "I'm such an idiot," and then mentally revisit every mistake you've made in your life. All over one door? There you go. It's not the mistake. It's how you talk to yourself when you make it. That's when you see if you truly respect yourself or not. So do you want to start speaking to yourself with more respect and transform your life? First, make a list of phrases you'd say to your best friend if they were going through the same thing you are. Things like, "You're doing fine," "It's okay," "You're trying your best," "Everything takes time." Then when you mess up or feel like you're falling short, use those same words with yourself. You deserve the same respect you give to others. Second, when you catch yourself being self-critical, add this question: is this helping me or hurting me? If it's not helping, change it. No, this isn't about getting rid of self-criticism, but turning it into something that builds you up, not tears you down. And third, try the mirror method. Look at yourself and say 3 affirming sentences out loud. At first it feels weird, maybe even awkward. But with time, you'll see those words start to take root. And what once felt like insecurity starts turning into confidence. Your mind, my friend, is like a garden. If you water it with self-contempt every day, nothing will grow. But if you start speaking to yourself with respect, with patience, and with intention, even the driest soil can bloom again. Because focusing on yourself also means this: taking care of how you treat yourself when no one else is watching. Lesson 10. You're wasting your time without realizing it. Tell me the truth, my friend. How many times have you said, "I don't have time," in the past week? How many times have you convinced yourself that your life is too busy to work out, read, learn something new, or start that project you've been dreaming about? Now tell me something else. How many times have you opened TikTok just for 5 minutes and ended up an hour later watching dancing dog videos? How many times have you opened YouTube with no real purpose and ended up watching a documentary about a lost tribe that has nothing to do with what you were supposed to do? No, of course not. The problem isn't that you don't have time. The problem is that you're giving it away without even realizing it. Marcus Aurelius made it clear, time is like a river. If you let it flow without meaning, you won't be able to get it back. And he wasn't just saying that. Despite being the emperor of Rome, with all the responsibilities that came with it, he still found time to write, reflect, and strengthen his mind. He didn't waste a single second on things that didn't bring value to his life. To him, every day was an opportunity for self-improvement, because he understood a truth that many struggle to accept. Time doesn't stop, it doesn't wait, and it doesn't come back. And here comes the harsh reality. Our society is lost. We are not like Marcus Aurelius. A study from the University of California analyzed how workers manage their time and found something alarming. On average, people waste 3 hours a day on unnecessary distractions. 3 whole hours. Where does all that time go? Not on important tasks, of course not. Instead, it's wasted on compulsively checking phones, jumping between browser tabs, or getting caught up in pointless conversations. If you add it up, that's over 1,000 hours a year completely wasted. What a loss. Think about this. You could have learned an entire language, read dozens of books, or built a business from scratch. But no, most people don't even realize that time is slipping through their fingers. And when they look back, they wonder why their life is still exactly the same. If you want to achieve something in life, you need to take control of your time once and for all, and focus only on yourself. Now imagine you decide to learn web design because you know that mastering this skill will open new opportunities for you. It could allow you to work independently, and who knows, maybe even launch your own business. You start motivated, you find a great course, you enroll, and that's when things get complicated. You finish work exhausted, you get home, you think about starting the course, but you decide to rest for a bit first. You grab your phone, watch a couple of videos, get distracted, and before you know it, the night is gone. Another day without progress. This is where you need a real strategy to stop wasting time and start making the most of it. Before going to bed, write down 3 key tasks for the next day. Not a never-ending list of impossible things, just 3. Watch the first lesson of the course, complete a practical exercise, and review design examples. If you complete those 3, the day was worth it. When it's time to start, avoid falling into the "I need motivation" trap. Use the 5-minute rule. Open the course and tell yourself, I'll just do 5 minutes, and if I want to stop after that, I will. But you already know the trick. Once you start, momentum will carry you forward. To avoid distractions, apply the Stoic Pomodoro method. Work for 25 minutes without interruptions, then take a 5-minute break. No checking your phone every 2 minutes, no, I'll just check 1 message. You create a real focus block, and when you finish, you'll feel like you actually made progress. Not only did you learn something new, but you also took a real step toward your future. Now tell me, how are you going to invest your time today? Write it in the comments. What are you going to focus on from now on to stop wasting time? Share it with us, because we're all on the same journey, and we can motivate each other. And keep watching, because what comes next might change the way you see things. If you start today, a year from now, you'll thank yourself for making this decision. But if you keep putting it off, well, a year from now, you'll still be in the same place. It's your choice. Lesson 11. Don't beg for love. Imagine a little flower in the forest that, instead of growing straight upward, crawls along the ground searching for sunlight. It bends toward any spot where it thinks it might catch a bit more light. Doesn't make sense, does it? The little flower simply takes in the sunlight that reaches it, the water that falls on it. It doesn't go chasing attention or trying to force a few extra rays to bloom faster. It just grows at the rhythm nature gives it, without pressure, without anxiety. Now tell me, how many times have you tried to be that little flower chasing sunlight at all costs? The one that tries to speed things up, that wants every ray of light to shine directly on it, that forces everything because it doesn't feel loved? Do you see what I'm saying? That endless search for love, for care, for attention from others. It's such a common wound. Sometimes we cling to any small sign of kindness, any drop of validation that helps us feel seen. I know because I've witnessed it. Let me tell you about Alejandra, an old friend who, after a tough breakup, fell into a cycle of empty relationships. I still remember how she suffered. She'd say to me, "I don't want to be alone. I need to feel like I matter to someone." And so she settled for so little. Half-hearted calls, vague texts, dates that went nowhere. Always giving her time, her affection, pouring everything outward and forgetting herself. One night we had a long talk. I asked her, "At what point did you become someone who settles for so little, someone who doesn't value herself?" And she went silent, because there it was, the root of it all. She had forgotten herself in her desperate need to feel loved. The conversation was long. At first, she denied it. But little by little, she started to realize that what she truly needed wasn't something someone else could give her. What she needed was to come back to herself, to care for herself, respect herself, focus on herself. That same week, she started doing the things she'd abandoned for years, going for solo walks, journaling her feelings, rediscovering her love for reading. And without even noticing, she began to bloom again. Not because of a new love, but because she chose her love. And do you know why this matters so much? Because if you're not your own center, any other person, anything external becomes your center. And when that happens, you're no longer living your life. You're living someone else's. And this isn't just ancient philosophy. Modern psychology has reached the same conclusion. Nathaniel Branden, a major figure in the study of self-esteem, put it simply: self-esteem is the reputation we acquire with ourselves. It's not about being seen in a good light by others. It's about looking at yourself with respect. About making decisions you feel proud of when you're alone with your thoughts. Because when you become your center, your priority, you no longer need anyone to validate you from the outside. You're already whole. You're already enough. And from there, love isn't something you beg for. It's something you share. So today I invite you to reflect. How many times have you abandoned yourself just to keep someone else around? How many times have you stayed quiet to avoid making someone uncomfortable? How many times have you stayed in something long after it had nothing left, just because you thought you couldn't be alone? Start recognizing those signs. When you feel anxious waiting for a reply, don't rush to your phone, rush to yourself. Do something that nourishes you. Cook, draw, go for a walk, embrace your process. And start giving yourself the very things you keep waiting to receive from others. Because as the Stoics taught us, life isn't about pleasing others. It's about living in peace with yourself. About putting yourself in the center. About becoming your own root, your own sun, your own water. And if you truly place yourself there, if you choose yourself with conviction, then love is never something you beg for. It's something you share, something you enjoy, and you'll never feel incomplete again. Lesson 12. Who's writing your life? Imagine for a moment that your life is a movie. There's a setting, a soundtrack, even supporting characters. Everything is moving forward. But there's one detail. You didn't write the script. You're just acting out what others put on the page. Your parents started it, society edited it, your friends added their own lines. And you, well, you're just following the script, no questions asked. And the worst part? You don't even like how the story is going. But you stay in it, out of inertia. It would be great if Marcus Aurelius were the one writing our lives, right? With powerful lines, bold decisions, and philosophy in every scene. But no, it's not like that. Sometimes it feels like our story was written by someone with more drama than wisdom, as if we had a tragic screenwriter dictating our choices. But if you opened your eyes, you'd realize something. You've had the pen in your hand all along. You're just not using it. I've been there too. I'm telling you this with no filter. There was a time when I didn't even dare to travel alone because my group of friends said, "What for?" That there was nothing more beautiful than our city. That going away was a waste of time and money. And I, just to fit in, just to not seem weird, believed it. I stayed. And the worst part wasn't the place. It was how I felt inside, like I was living in a story that wasn't mine. And of course, when you don't move, you don't grow. Look around you. How many people do you know who studied what they were told to? Who are in a relationship because it was the right thing to do? Who work a job they hate because it's secure? Now I want you to imagine this with me. Your life is a play, and every stage has its own act. The problem is that many times you weren't the one who wrote the script. You inherited it from your parents, your teachers, from society. And without realizing it, you started performing it, following every scene, every line, even if deep down you didn't feel like yourself. So what does that script so many people follow look like? Act 1. Study something safe. And there you are, choosing a major based more on job opportunities than on what you're truly passionate about. Act 2. Get a stable job, even if it doesn't fulfill you, even if every Monday feels endless. But hey, that's life, right? Act 3. Hold on to what you've got. Don't take risks. Get married, buy a house, retire if you can. That's it. Sound familiar? That's the script a lot of people follow without ever questioning it. And maybe it works for some, but does it work for you? Now let's imagine what it would look like to write your own script. Act 1. You choose to listen to yourself. For the first time in a long time, you ask what you want, not what others expect. Act 2. You make a brave decision. It could be something small, like starting a personal project, or something big, like letting go of what no longer represents you. Act 3. You start living in alignment. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but with purpose. And no, of course it won't be easy. It's easier to follow the old script, the one everyone applauds even if you're suffering inside. But if you've made it this far, it's because something inside you wants to take control. It wants to write a new chapter, in your own words. And no, you don't need permission, just courage. So start with something simple. Ask yourself which part of your life doesn't feel authentic, which scene you wouldn't repeat, which decision you made just to please someone else. Then do something different. Change a line, write a new one, cut a character out if you have to. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said, don't act as if you were going to live for 1,000 years. Because, my friend, focusing on yourself starts right there, when you stop playing a role and choose to be the author. So tell me, are you going to keep acting out the part you were given? Or are you finally going to be the one who writes your own story? Lesson 13. Just do it. Think about it. Just do it. That slogan you see on t-shirts, ads, and sports shoes isn't just a marketing phrase. It's a way of life. Because the truth is, most people don't achieve what they want, not because they lack talent or ability, but simply because they never start. How many times have you told yourself you're going to start working out, that you're going to eat healthier, learn a new language, start your own business? And yet, here you are, still waiting for the perfect moment, the day you feel ready, the instant when all the pieces magically fall into place. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That moment will never come. Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, understands this perfectly. His #1 rule for success is to say yes before you're ready. Because if you wait until everything is under control, you'll never do anything. He's openly talked about how he's jumped into projects without having a clue how they would turn out. And that's the key. It's not about being perfect. It's about taking action. The Stoics knew this long before any productivity guru. Epictetus didn't spend hours explaining what he wanted to do. He just did it. That's why he left behind one of the clearest teachings. Don't explain your dreams, make them happen. Because talking about what you want to do, planning it, analyzing it, none of that brings you even one step closer to achieving it. Only action does. Let me give you a clear example. Imagine you want to learn to play the guitar. You spend hours watching videos on technique, comparing guitar models, researching which strings are best. But at the end of the day, how many times have you actually touched the guitar? How many times have you placed your fingers on the strings and made a sound? Exactly. 0. This is where Newton's law of inertia comes in. And trust me, this makes sense. Newton said that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion keeps moving. And this applies to your mind too. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll stay still. But if you take the first step, no matter how clumsy, no matter how imperfect, it'll be easier to keep going. So if you really decide to learn that instrument, what's the right approach if you apply the just do it mindset? First, less theory, more action. Learn just enough to get started, but stop searching for the perfect tutorial. If you want to learn guitar, instead of watching 5 hours of videos on which one is best, buy whichever you can afford and start playing. Can you only dedicate 15 minutes a day? That's more than enough to learn a couple of chords and start practicing. And remember, no one started as an expert. Do it badly, but do it. The greatest musicians played horribly at first. The best writers produced terrible drafts before writing something great. The fastest athletes once tripped over their own feet. So what? Don't wait for perfection. Start, even if you mess up. Because in the end, my friend, the only thing that really matters is whether or not you do what you say you'll do. You can keep waiting, planning, and searching for the perfect moment. Or you can move now and work hard in silence. So tell me, are you going to keep waiting or are you going to make it happen? Lesson 14. Train your mind to push you, not hold you back. Your mind is like a wild horse. If you don't train it, it'll throw you to the ground at the first jolt. And the worst part isn't the fall. It's that you don't even see where it came from. Because when the mind runs wild, it doesn't need external enemies to hurt you. It attacks from within, in the form of self-sabotaging thoughts, looping doubts, and that constant feeling that something's wrong, even when everything's calm. And it starts showing up in almost invisible ways. When you wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone, chasing validation. When you look in the mirror and only see what's missing. When someone takes a while to reply and you've already invented 3 worst-case scenarios. That's your mind without reins, dragging you down roads you didn't choose, imagining dangers that don't exist, draining your energy like a slow emotional leak. Marcus Aurelius lived it on a grand scale. Wars, plagues, brutal decisions. And still he managed to stay grounded enough to write, "Happiness depends on yourself, on how you judge what happens." And he wasn't writing from a Roman spa or a peaceful retreat. He wrote from the front lines, from loss, from pressure. And he managed it not because he was some enlightened being, but because he had discipline, a mental practice he repeated daily. That was his real armor. Because here's the secret, it's not about having a mind free of chaos. It's about being able to look at chaos and not get dragged into it. It's a habit, a daily practice, like sharpening an invisible tool that, when the moment comes, lets you slice through fear and choose with clarity. And this isn't just philosophy. Psychologist Rafael Santandreu says something very similar. Mental health isn't the absence of problems. It's the ability to face them with strength. He compares it to a muscle that, if not trained, weakens. And then the slightest burden breaks you. But if you strengthen it bit by bit, you begin to endure, to understand, even to transform what used to overwhelm you. A strong mind won't make you invincible, but it will make you free. So how do you train it? Here are 2 simple but powerful exercises. 1. Write for 3 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be pretty, or long, or for anyone but you. Just write, "What thought hurt me today?" And answer honestly. Putting it into words disarms it. It stops having power over you. 2. Take a conscious pause whenever you feel your mind dragging you down. Close your eyes and imagine your negative thoughts as a cloud of dust floating around you. With each inhale, that dust enters, but as it passes through you, it transforms into something lighter, clearer, and with each exhale, you release it back into the air. Clean, uncharged, harmless. Do it 2 or 3 times. It's your way of telling your mind, "I'm in charge here." Because a mind with no direction doesn't just slow you down, It turns you into your own obstacle. But a trained mind, my friend, is like a lighthouse in a storm. It holds you steady, it guides you. It reminds you who you are when everything else starts to shake. And if you're living at the mercy of your racing thoughts, if your days are starting to all look the same because you're reacting instead of choosing, then you already know where to begin. You don't need to change the whole world. Start by changing the tone of your inner voice, and the rest will follow. My friend, the most important part is still ahead, because you might have mental clarity, well-set priorities, and plenty of motivation. But if you don't do this next thing, all of it will stay just words. There's one final truth that could completely change your direction. Stick around, because what comes next might be the push you've been needing to come back to yourself and build the life you've been dreaming of. Lesson 15. Does it make you uncomfortable? Then you're on the right path. Tell me the truth. When was the last time you did something that truly made you uncomfortable? And I'm not talking about switching to a new Netflix series or trying a new dish at a restaurant. I mean something that genuinely pushed you out of your comfort zone. When was the last time you spoke in public even though your hands were shaking? Or got up at 5 in the morning to work on what truly matters? Or decided to face something that scares you instead of avoiding it? Because here's the thing. If you don't do things that make you uncomfortable, you will never grow. Most people think discomfort is a warning sign, like a stop sign in the middle of the road. But in reality, it's a compass pointing directly toward your growth. Every moment of doubt, every obstacle, every bit of tension is a sign that you're moving towards something greater. If you never feel that discomfort, my friend, it's not that you're on the right path. It's that you haven't even started walking. And no, you can't fool me. I know you avoid discomfort. How do I know? Because we all do at some point. We prefer what's safe, easy, and familiar. We want to improve, but without sacrifice. We want success, but without effort. We want to be stronger, but without facing resistance. Epictetus would tell you right now, don't wish things were easier. Make yourself stronger. The Stoics understood that discomfort isn't a punishment. It's the fire that forges character. It wasn't about avoiding challenges, but facing them with the certainty that every obstacle overcome made them more resilient. Because the problem isn't that life is hard. The problem is that you're waiting for things to become easy before you take action. And that will never happen. Look at the case of David Blaine, the illusionist. When he decided to break the world record for breath holding, he wasn't a superhero. He didn't have supernatural abilities. He simply trained his body and mind to withstand 17 minutes without oxygen. 17 minutes. Now tell me that's not facing discomfort head on. You know what he did? Day after day, he pushed his body to the limit. He learned to ignore the urgency of panic, to control his heart rate, to endure the unbearable. And after immense suffering, he succeeded. He wasn't born with that ability. He built it. And you can do the same. You know why? Because science tells us so. Neuroscientist Wendy Suzuki explains it clearly. When you face discomfort, your brain changes. New neural connections form, resilient circuits strengthen, and you become stronger and more resistant. You are literally programming yourself to be better. But if you always avoid effort, if you always choose the easiest way, you are training your mind to give up before even starting. So, are you ready to start using discomfort to your advantage? Think about this. Every day you have two options. Do the same as always, or push yourself a little and grow. Which do you choose? Because discomfort won't come knocking on your door, you have to go out and find it. Wake up earlier. What's the worst that could happen? That you gain more time for yourself instead of rushing through the day? Finish your shower with cold water. Can you handle 10 seconds? Spoiler. Yes. Read a page in another language, even if it frustrates you. And that message you've been hesitating to send? Send it now. It doesn't matter what you choose to do. The important thing is that you stop running away from effort. Because the more you face discomfort, the stronger you become. Also, learn to differentiate between pain and growth. Giving up because something is difficult is not the same as stopping because something is genuinely harmful. The pain of effort is temporary, but the regret of not trying lasts forever. And finally, be grateful for discomfort. Yes, I know it's hard, but it works. When you feel uncomfortable, instead of complaining, think, "This is taking me in the right direction." Replace complaints with gratitude, because every obstacle you overcome makes you greater. Don't see discomfort as your enemy. It's the sign that you're making progress. Every time you face it, you choose yourself, reinforce your discipline, and take one more step toward the life you truly want. Now tell us in the comments, what's the last thing you did that pushed you out of your comfort zone? We want to hear your story. Lesson 16. Your environment says more about you than your words. My friend, let's be clear. If you truly want to focus on yourself and transform your life, you need to start with the most obvious place, and at the same time, the most overlooked one, your environment. And when I say environment, I don't just mean the people around you, although we'll talk more about that later, because yes, it definitely matters. I'm talking about all those things that come in uninvited, but stick around, making noise inside your head. Not sure what I mean? Think of your mind like your home. If you allow negative voices in every day, useless videos, people who only complain, tragic news, and pointless arguments, that house starts filling up with dust. You can put flowers in it, you can paint the walls pretty colors, but the mess is still there. And in the end, you end up living in chaos, thinking that's just how things are. I know someone very close to me who lives exactly like that. She wakes up with her phone in hand, turns on the news before even brushing her teeth, scrolls through social media where everyone looks happier and more successful than she feels, and then spends the day talking about how messed up the world is, how her neighbors, her job, politics are all falling apart, and at night she complains she can't sleep and lives with anxiety. And you know what's worse? She doesn't see the connection. She thinks it all just happens for no reason, like the world is crashing down on her by accident. But no, that's not how it works. The truth is, what you consume, what you allow into your mental space, shapes how you feel. Jay Shetty, who spent years as a monk, explains this really well on his podcast. If you want clean energy, you need a clean environment. He calls it creating nourishing spaces, both physical and digital, because energy, my friend, is contagious. And if you surround yourself with chaos, don't expect to feel peace. Now just imagine for a second that we add Epictetus to a modern-day WhatsApp group, one full of complaints, pointless memes, and fear-mongering chain messages. What do you think he'd do? He'd probably leave within 5 minutes saying, "I'd rather be deaf than let this much noise into my soul." And honestly, he'd be absolutely right, because like he said himself, it's more important to be mindful of what you feed your soul than what you feed your body. So tell me, what have you been feeding your soul lately? If you truly want to focus on yourself and achieve everything you're aiming for, start by taking control of what you let in. Here are a few steps you can start applying today. First, unfollow at least 3 social media accounts that only make you compare yourself, feel less, or waste time. Yes, even that account with a millionaire dog living better than you in Dubai. It's not helping. Get rid of it. Second, do a digital cleanup once a week. Ask yourself, does this content inspire me or drain me? If the answer is it drains me, you already know what to do. And third, change your soundtrack. If your playlist sounds like it was written by someone with a broken heart and zero self-worth, change it. Sometimes silence is better than all that drama. Small decisions, that's all it takes. Because if you clean up your environment even just a little, your mind starts to breathe. And when your mind breathes, you take back control. You start thinking more clearly, feeling more energized, and most importantly, putting yourself first. And that, right there, is the first step to focusing on yourself. It's not just about looking inward, but also about protecting what surrounds you. If today you walked into your mind like someone walks into a room, is it tidy? Or is it full of things you never chose? Maybe focusing on yourself starts simply by learning to close a few doors. 17th lesson. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. If I asked you today to open up the closet of your life, what would we find inside? I bet there are people in there who don't fit you anymore. Like old clothes you keep for no reason. Relationships that were once beautiful, but are now covered in dust. People who no longer match your current self, but you still hold on to them just in case. And meanwhile, you're trying to make space, trying to focus on yourself, trying to move forward, but you can't, because everything's full. And you know it. Every time you talk to that person who doesn't add anything to your life, you feel it. Every time you say yes to plans you don't really want, you feel it. And yet, you keep doing it. Out of habit, out of guilt, out of fear. There's a quote from motivational speaker Lisa Nichols that really stuck with me. In a talk, she shared how she had to distance herself, even from close family members, in order to grow. People she loved, but who no longer allowed her to move forward. And she said something powerful. Not everyone is invited to the next chapter of my life. That's what sticky relationships are like. They're not toxic in the obvious sense, but they cling to you. They drain your energy, pull your attention, use guilt to manipulate you. And sometimes, as painful as it is, growing also means letting go. Because not everyone evolves with you. And if you insist on dragging them along, you'll end up walking slower, or worse, getting lost in their noise. Seneca was crystal clear about this. His philosophy was built around one principle: surround yourself with those who make you better. If someone doesn't improve you, they make you worse. There's no middle ground. They either lift you up or drag you down. They either inspire you or hold you back. And you can feel it. You know it. But sometimes you don't want to face it. I'm sure that as you listen to this, someone has already come to mind. That person you talk to and always end up feeling drained. The one who laughs or throws subtle jabs when you talk about your dreams. The one who always finds something negative to say, even when you're excited. The one who doesn't respect your interests, your path, or your time, and you're still there, justifying it, because they've always been around, because you don't want drama, because they're not that bad. But you're not here to stay stuck in what's familiar. You're here to transform, to focus on yourself, to go after what you truly want. And that requires clean energy. People who push you forward, not who push you off a cliff. So do an inventory of your relationships, seriously. Grab a pen and paper and go person by person. Does this person lift me up? Check. Do they bring me down? Noted. Do they leave me feeling nothing? There's your clue, and be honest. If just thinking about them makes you sigh or feel heavy, that's already an answer. Your energy isn't infinite. Spend it wisely. And when it's time to set boundaries, do it with a bit of humor. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You can say, "It's not that I'm pulling away. It's just that my peace doesn't take walk-ins anymore." Sounds funny, but it sets a clear line. And if they get it, great. And if they don't, well, now you know. If someone gets upset because you're choosing your well-being, remember this. The right people don't get offended when you prioritize yourself. The wrong ones do. But that's a signal too. Because you can't build a new life while dragging around rusty pieces from the past. And sometimes, true focus begins with one closed door. Just one. But closed tight. Lesson number 18. The truth is you're sabotaging yourself. Picture a ship sailing across the open sea. It's solid. The wind is on its side and it has a clear destination. But without the captain knowing, someone on board is poking small holes in the hull. At first you don't notice, but water starts seeping in, little by little. And by the time the captain realizes something's wrong, it's too late. The ship is sinking more than it's moving. Well, I hate to say it, my friend, but that invisible saboteur, a lot of the time it's you. And don't get me wrong, not because you want to fail, of course not, but without realizing it, you trip yourself up every day, with small actions, with excuses disguised as logic, with distractions that seem harmless but slowly steal your sense of direction. Marcus Aurelius already knew this centuries ago. That's why he said that what stops us from acting isn't out there. It's inside, and you know it too. You say you'll wake up early, but you leave your phone 10 centimeters from your face with the snooze button closer than your actual purpose. You say you're going to start working out, but you wait for motivation like it's going to knock on your door wearing running shoes. You swear you don't have time, but you binge 3 episodes of a series you're not even that into. And when it's over, you say, tomorrow, for sure. But don't stress. It's not all your fault. It's the world we live in. You know what Marcos Vasquez calls it? Modern indulgence. Sounds strange, right? But it actually makes total sense. It's that new normal where giving yourself treats all the time, avoiding discomfort and chasing instant pleasure is what's socially acceptable. As if constant rest were the same thing as self-care. But no, of course it's not. Because that comfort, more often than not, isn't well-being. It's a polished way of staying stuck. It dulls you, slows you down. And worst of all, it makes you believe you're doing fine. And the more comfortable you get, the harder it is to move. Can you imagine Seneca putting off writing one of his letters because he wasn't in a philosophical mood? Or saying, I'm not going to reflect today, I'm kind of distracted. Come on. Just the thought is funny. Seneca wrote surrounded by chaos, betrayal, even while living under Nero himself. And you can't close TikTok for 5 minutes? Come on, it's really not that dramatic. So, my friend, if you want to focus on yourself, if you truly want to transform your life, start now. What can you do? First, stop saying, I should do it, and say I'm doing it now or I'm not doing it at all. Yeah, it sounds extreme, but your excuses are extreme too, and sometimes you need a wake-up call. Second, use the 5-minute rule. That task you've been avoiding, just do it for 5 minutes. That's it, write it, start it, move. Because the first step is what breaks the spell of inertia. And third, do something you probably never do. Answer yourself. Write down the excuses you always use. Literally, I'm tired. I don't have time, today's not a good day. Then read them out loud and answer them like a personal coach would. No fake compassion. You're tired, yeah, but you're doing it anyway. Stop protecting your excuses like they're treasures. They're traps, and you deserve more than that. Remember, real focus begins the moment you stop hiding behind I'll start tomorrow and choose to act now. Lesson 19. Stop pointing outward, look within. There are people who go through life with their finger always pointing outward, blaming work, their relationship, or the past they drag around like a chain. And the worst part? They never stop to ask themselves when they stopped looking inward. They stop sleeping well, stop setting boundaries, stop saying what they really feel. And of course, they're always looking for an external reason, searching for someone to blame, without realizing they've been abandoning themselves all along. Tell me, has this ever happened to you? And no, I'm not pointing fingers here. We've all fallen into that trap. We think that if we get everything in order on the outside, the clean house, the happy partner, the steady job, then we'll feel good inside. But that's a lie disguised as common sense. Because if you abandon yourself just to keep everything else in check, sooner or later, you'll break. It's that simple. Life isn't going to stop to save you if you're not willing to save yourself first. And here's the worst part. When you live like that, anything can knock you off balance. One comment crushes you. One unexpected problem overwhelms you. One look leaves you shaken, because you've handed over the steering wheel of your life to everything outside of you. And when the wind shifts, you sink. You've got no center, only reaction. And inside, empty, like a car rolling downhill without a driver, moving only because gravity pulls it, but with no idea where it's going. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus was a slave, with no rights, no external freedom, and yet he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Do you know what that means? It means you can be surrounded by chaos, by misfortune, by problems, and still be at peace if you don't lose yourself. And on the flip side, you can have everything and still feel lost if you don't know who you are or why you're here. And you don't need some major crisis to notice it. Sometimes all it takes is one more day. One of those days when you wake up with no energy, do things you don't want to do, smile just to avoid discomfort, stay silent just to avoid conflict. And at the end of the day, you lie down in bed with a strange feeling, like something inside you is quietly crying out for help. So now tell me, what do you do when you have a free moment? Do you open Instagram to check out other people's lives? Or do you sit with yourself, even if it's uncomfortable? Do you turn on music just to avoid thinking? Or do you dare to listen to what your mind is trying to say? That's the difference between abandoning yourself to life or returning to who you are. So, my friend, if you feel like something inside you is fading, if you've lost touch with your emotions, if you're trapped in other people's problems, if everything feels draining but you don't know why, then you're caught in one of the most common modern illnesses, lack of focus on yourself. It's time to come back to you. And no, the solution doesn't have to be a spiritual retreat in the mountains or disappearing from the world. That's not very practical. I'm talking about something more subtle but just as powerful. Daring to sit with yourself, to look inward without filters, without fear of what you might find. Because that's where it all begins. That's where you get your strength back, your direction, and your true voice. So, if you really want to stop living on autopilot, just taking whatever life throws your way, if you want to start focusing on yourself and reclaiming what's yours, then hear this. Stop looking at what others are doing. Look at yourself. Your emotions aren't a burden. They're the map back to who you are. And when you're about to blame someone or something for what you're going through, pause. Ask yourself, what part of this am I choosing? Because yes, sometimes we choose to stay where we're not valued. Sometimes we choose to take offense at things that shouldn't even touch us. Sometimes we simply choose to complain instead of choosing strength. And here's another important trick. Do just one thing for yourself today. Just one. Something as simple as saying no, turning off your phone, or giving yourself 10 minutes of presence. That moment will be small, but it'll be yours. It'll be your commitment to yourself, your way of telling the world and yourself, I come first. I take care of me. I value myself. And let me tell you something else. Don't wait until you hit rock bottom to focus on yourself. You don't need to let everything collapse before you rebuild. You can choose yourself today, right now, while everything is still in motion, because when you change, everything changes. Not all at once, not like some miracle, but like a quiet chain reaction. You start seeing yourself differently, speaking differently, choosing differently. And suddenly, without forcing it, life starts treating you differently too. Because finally, you're acting like someone who takes their place in the world seriously. Lesson 20. Practice mental minimalism. Imagine your mind as a desk, a space where you're supposed to work, think, and create. But now, imagine that desk is covered in junk. Stacks of papers, old receipts, empty coffee cups, sticky notes with tasks that no longer matter. There's no space to move. You can't find anything, and worst of all, you feel overwhelmed before you even start working. That's exactly how your mind functions when it's overloaded with useless information. Every time you consume alarmist news, social media complaints, meaningless gossip, bam! Another piece of paper on your mental desk, crash. Another pile of emotional clutter taking up space, plop. A new worry lands in your mind, one that isn't even yours, and then you wonder why you can't focus on what truly matters. My friend, your head looks like a desk after a hurricane, and you haven't even realized it. The problem is that you don't even notice how much noise you're letting in. You think keeping up with every political scandal, every global crisis, and every social media debate makes you more informed, more aware, more intelligent. But let's be honest. Does it actually help you? Or are you just filling your head with worries you can't solve, while neglecting the one thing you can control, your own life? Epictetus understood this well. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The richest person isn't the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. And this doesn't just apply to material things, it applies to your mind as well. The more unnecessary desires you accumulate, the more noise you create in your head, And the more noise there is, the less space you have to focus on yourself. Picture this. You wake up in the morning, and without thinking, your phone is already in your hand. You open X or Twitter, and the first thing you see is a heated political argument. Then you switch to Instagram and find someone showing off their perfect life. Meanwhile, you haven't even made your bed. Next, you check the news, reading about economic crises, wars, and problems that aren't even happening in your country. Without realizing it, all that negativity builds up in your mind. Anxiety, frustration, the feeling that the world is out of control. But in reality, the only thing out of control is your focus. Because while you're drowning in unnecessary information, you're ignoring the most important thing, your own life. This is exactly what happened to Matt D'Avella, a content creator who realized he was spending too much time consuming news, and it was stealing his peace of mind. So he decided to do something extreme, an entire year without watching the news. Nothing. No TV, no newspapers, no social media. Even his wife was forbidden from telling him any news. The result was surprising. His anxiety decreased, his focus improved, and he had more time for himself and his projects. And the most interesting part? At the end of the experiment, he realized that the truly important news always found its way to him. He didn't miss anything crucial. Do you see it now? You don't need to be hyper-connected to stay informed. So, how can you start decluttering your mental desk and taking back control? First, apply the rule of the 3 filters. Before worrying about something, ask yourself these 3 questions. Does this directly affect me? Can I do something about it? Is it important in my life? If the answer to all 3 is no, let it go. Don't fill your head with things that only drain your energy without giving anything in return. Most people's worries aren't even their own. They're imposed by an overstimulated environment. Second, if you truly want to regain focus, stop consuming news all the time. You don't need to know every political scandal or every global tragedy the moment it happens. Your mind isn't designed to absorb all the misery of the world without breaking down. And if something truly important happens, trust me, you'll hear about it. Third, surround yourself with quality information. Instead of filling your mind with toxic news and irrelevant gossip, ask yourself, how can I invest this time? Maybe by reading books that actually teach you something, learning new skills, or working on personal projects. Remember, a clear mind leads to a clear life. Now tell me, how much mental clutter have you been carrying around? Because until you clean up your mind, you won't be able to focus on the one thing that truly matters, yourself. Lesson 21. You are the author of the story you're telling yourself. Have you ever stopped to think about what story you keep repeating to yourself every day? Because whether you realize it or not, every single day, you're writing a script. And the worst part, most of the time, you didn't even choose it. You inherited it. You copied it. You took it on when you were a kid, when someone let you down, when someone told you that you couldn't, and you turned it into your truth. Your mind is like a radio station that never stops broadcasting. But if you never check what it's playing, you might be stuck listening to the same sad song over and over. The one that goes, I'm not enough. I'm not good at this. I'll never make it. And you know what happens when that's the story you tell yourself. You end up acting like a side character in your own life. You react, you survive, you endure, but you don't choose. Now imagine your life is a series. Would you keep watching season after season if you knew the ending never changes? Would you root for a main character who always gives up? Who never speaks up, never claims their place, who never changes anything, just hopes things will magically get better? Frustrating, right? Yet that's how so many people live, trapped in a narrative that doesn't even represent them anymore. And yes, I know what you're going to say, but my situation is hard, or no one's helping me. And you're right. I won't argue with that, but hear me clearly. You are responsible for your life. Whether it's easy or not, your responsibility and your greatest power is to take ownership of yourself. Do you know the actress Viola Davis? She was born into absolute poverty. A home infested with rats, no running water, no resources. Discriminated against for her race, her clothes, for being a woman. The script written for her was clear. Stay quiet, stay hidden, survive. But one day, she said enough. She chose to rewrite her story, and instead of saying, "I'm not enough," she started saying, "My story deserves to be told too." She fought. She left that environment. She trained. She stood up to society. It wasn't easy. It took time. But today, she's one of the most respected and awarded actresses in the world. See? She didn't wait for someone to hand her a better narrative. She created it. Epictetus, the philosopher who was once a slave, did the same. He could have stayed in the victim story. I'm a slave. I can't do anything. But he chose a different one. I am free on the inside. And from that mental freedom, he built a philosophy that's still changing lives centuries later. He taught us that it's not about what happens to us. It's about the meaning we choose to give it. Because if you don't decide, others will. If you don't focus on who you are, you'll end up living based on what others told you you were. Marcus Aurelius knew this too. In the middle of wars, illness, betrayal, he wrote in his journal every day. Not for anyone else, but for himself, to remind himself of who he wanted to be, what values he stood for, what story he chose to live. And when everything around him was chaos, he went back to that, to his center. And you? What story are you repeating? The one about the kid who wasn't good enough? The adult no one supports? The one who always gets left behind? If that story is draining your strength, maybe it's time to let it go. Maybe it's time to write a new one. And I'm not just saying this from philosophy. Modern psychology backs it up too. According to psychologist Dan McAdams, we all build what he calls a narrative identity, a story we use to make sense of our lives. But that story isn't written in stone. You can revise it, shape it, polish it. And when you do, it changes how you live, how you see things, who you are. So start here. Write a page about what you usually tell yourself when things go wrong. Read it out loud. Then write another version, the way you'd speak to someone you love. Identify the automatic thoughts that keep showing up. Ask yourself, who told me this the first time? And if it came from someone who was afraid, bitter, or hurt, why are you still believing it? Then create your new motto, a phrase you can repeat to yourself every day. Something so yours, so clear, it becomes your anchor, your new starting point. Because yes, my friend, you may have a painful past, but that doesn't mean your story is already written. You are the author. The next chapter depends on you. Lesson 22. Your freedom begins within. For a long time, we've been taught that being free means having money, traveling whenever you want, or not having to answer to anyone. And yes, all of that sounds good. But no, that's not real freedom. Because there are people with millions in the bank who are still slaves to what others think, to their own emotions, to outside pressure. And then there are others, living simple lives, walking through the world with a peace you can't buy, because they owe nothing to anyone, not even to their own out-of-control emotions. Epictetus, who was born a slave, understood this better than anyone. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And if a man who was physically chained could think that way, why wouldn't you be able to do it right now? Do you know the economist Juan Ramon Rallo? He puts it very directly. If there's no inner freedom, there can be no real transformation. You can change jobs, change partners, move to another country. But if you don't take back control of your mind and your decisions, you'll still feel just as trapped, just in a different place. And I say this with all the love in the world. You call yourself free, but you can't go an hour without checking your phone. You make decisions based on other people's approval. You pack your schedule full, but there's not a single day planned just for you. Is that really freedom? Imagine this. For a full week, no one sees you. No one follows you on social media. No one listens to you. No one watches you. It's just you with yourself. Now think, what would you do differently? Would you change what you wear, what you say, your plans? If the answer is yes, maybe what you do every day isn't really your choice, but the choice of the people watching you. So, how do you create the kind of freedom that allows you to focus on yourself, and only yourself? It's not as hard as it sounds. Start by doing one thing today just because you decided to. No trends, no what looks good, no expectations. It could be as simple as reading something that interests you even if it's not popular, or wearing that outfit you love, even if it doesn't match what's acceptable. And no, you don't need a whole day for this. 1 hour is enough. 1 hour a day of sovereignty, no notifications, no outside duties, no being available to anyone else, just 1 hour for you, to reconnect, to think, to choose. And yes, practice the art of saying no, kindly, gracefully, firmly, because every time you say yes to something you don't want, you're saying no to yourself. And that's not freedom. My friend, if you truly want to focus on yourself and transform your life, you can't keep living trapped in other people's eyes. You have to start looking from within, making decisions for yourself, listening to you more than any other voice. And I'll leave you with a phrase that could mark a before and after in your journey. To be free is to have no fear of losing anything external, because what's inside is already enough. Remember it every time you feel like you have to explain yourself, prove yourself, or please everyone. Because when freedom starts within you, nothing and no one can take away what you build from there. Lesson 23. Stop betraying yourself. There's a quiet way to lose yourself, and it doesn't happen when things go wrong. It happens when you stop listening to yourself. When you say yes while deep down you mean no. When you smile while something inside is breaking. When you go along with what's expected, even though everything in you is screaming that this isn't the path you want. That's the most dangerous kind of betrayal, the one that happens in silence, with no witnesses, but slowly takes pieces of you each day. And no, I'm not talking about huge decisions. I'm talking about the everyday stuff. When you agree to meet with people who drain you. When you put your dreams on hold just to avoid making others uncomfortable. When you put other people's approval above your own peace. Those small compromises, when they pile up, end up pulling you further and further away from yourself. The Stoics were clear about this. It's about living with integrity, about being loyal to what you think, what you feel, and what truly matters to you. Picture this. You're in a room full of people, everyone sharing their opinions, everyone expecting you to agree. What do you do if you don't? Do you stand firm or change your tune just to fit in? Think of Epictetus, think of Seneca. Neither of them would have bowed just to please others. They would have spoken with respect, yes, but with firmness. Because for them, betraying themselves was worse than losing everything. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That's what it means to live with self-respect, to be true to yourself. And you? How many times a day do you do the exact opposite? You say you're going to take care of yourself, and once again, you put yourself last. You say you'll set boundaries, and then stay quiet to avoid upsetting anyone. You say you'll change, but find yourself stuck in the same loop as always. Sound familiar? Psychologist Mariam Kuchaki from Northwestern University discovered something powerful. When you act against your values, your mind pushes back. It's called moral dissonance, and it's no small thing. It's like a silent alarm screaming inside you. This isn't it. And the longer you keep pretending everything is fine, the more intense it gets. Anxiety, exhaustion, confusion, they don't always come from the outside. Often they come from betraying yourself. And the worst part is, you don't even realize it until you're at your limit. And of course, when you live like that for too long, it starts to hurt just to be with yourself. Because deep down, you know you could have spoken up, could have stood your ground, could have chosen yourself, but you didn't. And that weighs on you. Like a tab you never settled with yourself. Modern-day Stoics wouldn't be the ones shouting the loudest. They'd be the ones who look you in the eye, who speak clearly, who don't betray themselves, even if that means making others uncomfortable. And not out of ego, but out of respect. Because if you don't respect yourself, who will? So tell me, do you dare to respect yourself like a Stoic would? What would happen if every time something didn't sit right with you, you said it? If every time something hurt you, you drew a boundary? Look, if you ever feel like you're losing control, like you don't know how to come back to yourself, do this. First, pay attention to your body. When what you're doing doesn't align with who you are, it shows. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots up, your energy drops. That's your compass. Listen to it. Then ask yourself, does what I'm about to do represent me? Or am I doing it out of fear? If the answer doesn't make you feel strong, it's time to stop. And finally, practice coherence in the small things. Say no when you don't feel like it. Rest when you need to. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. Don't underestimate those moments. Because every time you choose what you feel, you're choosing yourself. Because focusing on yourself is also about this: stopping the betrayal. Stopping the act of living a life that looks like you on the outside but doesn't honor you on the inside. And trust me, when you come back to yourself, everything starts to fall into place. Lesson 24. Learn to be alone without feeling empty. I hate to be the one to say this, but it's not that you don't know how to be alone. It's that you can't stand facing yourself. And I don't say this to offend you, quite the opposite. I say it because it happens to so many of us. We'd rather choose any noise, any distraction, any person to keep us from silence, because it's there, when the world quiets down, that we start to hear what we've got inside. And that is scary. On the outside, it might not look like much. You play a video in the background while eating, even if you're not really watching it. You walk around the house with headphones on, even when there's no music. You say yes to plans you don't really want, just to avoid being alone with yourself. And then you wonder why you don't have clarity, why you don't know what you want, why you feel disconnected from who you are. But let me tell you something important. True focus begins the moment you're able to stay with yourself without needing to run away. That's where a strong mind begins to form. That's where a clear life starts, because you can't transform yourself if you don't even know what's going on inside. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, an emperor who could have had anyone by his side with the snap of a finger, chose solitude. Every single day, he would retreat to reflect, to talk with his inner self, to examine his thoughts. He wrote, "Withdraw into yourself." Those who have within themselves the source of their actions don't need to run from solitude. He got it. He understood perfectly. If he didn't nurture his inner world, if he couldn't find peace within himself, then he was lost. Because the outside world changes, the outside world fails. But what's inside, if you work on it, it becomes your anchor. And yes, I know, it's hard to be with yourself. So let's practice something that Justin Brow calls conscious solitude, not as punishment, but as a power practice. He talks about how we spend our lives chasing validation, company, stimulation, when in reality, being with yourself should be the foundation of everything. And he's right, because the one who finds themselves in solitude becomes free. And no, I'm not saying you have to lock yourself in a cabin with no human contact. I'm talking about learning to be with yourself without discomfort, about letting go of the fear of silence. Because if you don't enjoy your own company, how can you shape your life around what you truly want? So first, spend 20 minutes a day without music, without your phone, without any stimulation. Just you. Yes, it'll feel uncomfortable at first. Your mind will jump from thought to thought. It'll crave distraction. But stay with it, because that's where the reconnection begins. Second, do something solo once a week. But don't see it as being alone. See it as a date with yourself, literally. Go have breakfast alone at that place you always pass but never go into. Bring a book, or just sit and observe, or go see a movie at the theater by yourself. No, it's not weird. It's freeing. Do it for you, not for anyone to see it, not to prove anything, just to reconnect with the most important person in your life, you. And also, change the word alone to with myself. It sounds simple, but it's not. You're not alone. You're with yourself. It's not isolation, it's a meeting. It's not boredom, it's an opportunity. Because the moment you learn to be with yourself without feeling empty, everything changes. You start to hear yourself, to understand yourself, to figure out what you actually need. And from there, you can truly focus and build a life you choose, not one you're just trying to fill out of fear of silence. So now tell us in the comments, what will your next date with yourself be? It can be something small or something deeply personal. Doesn't matter. Write it down. Because when you choose to spend time with yourself, you take the first step toward focusing on what truly matters. And remember, this community is here to support you. Lesson number 25. Your attention is your greatest treasure. Attention. That precious and rare treasure in our time. If before it was taken by a friend or your boss, now it's stolen by anything flashy with a notification. Every stimulus is like a silent thief. It doesn't hit you. It doesn't yell. It just slips in. And by the time you notice, you're no longer here. You're lost in a video, a story, a comment you don't even care about. You go to the kitchen for a glass of water, and 20 minutes later, you realize you're watching videos about how to survive on a desert island. And of course, you tell yourself, just 5 minutes. But you stay for an hour. Your mind, instead of being with you, is wandering aimlessly down the alleyways of distraction. And the worst part is, while you're doing all that, you think you're resting. But in reality, you're losing yourself. You're losing focus, disconnecting from what you feel, from what you need, from what actually matters. And then, of course, comes that emptiness, that quiet question at the end of the day, why do I feel this way? As if your energy has been leaking through some invisible crack, as if you've been everywhere, except with yourself. Seneca didn't talk about not wasting time like some motivational quote you'd find on a coffee mug. For him, it was life or death. He taught that wasting time was the greatest theft because there's no way to get it back. He said people guard their money fiercely, but let their minutes be stolen as if they're worth nothing. And he was right. Today we protect our bank passwords, but not what enters our minds. We let every little notification interrupt us, as if our attention costs nothing, when it's actually worth everything. And I get it. Looking outward is easier than looking inward. Of course it is. But if you're here, it's because you want to return to yourself. You want to reconnect, to feel alive again, right? Then it's time to disconnect from empty distractions and come back to you. And modern psychology says the same. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin explains that every time we jump from one task to another, like stopping work to check your phone, our brain pays a cognitive cost. It gets tired. It scatters. We literally become less efficient, more anxious, and more prone to mental exhaustion. And that's not even counting the emotional noise. Psychology calls it digital dopamine, that constant craving for new stimuli which makes you dependent, makes you a slave. But don't worry, it's fixable. Do this, and little by little you'll reclaim your focus. Start by keeping your phone out of the bedroom at night. It's a small gesture, but it makes a massive difference. Sleeping and waking without external noise helps you return to yourself, without interference. Next, give yourself at least 5 minutes a day without any stimuli. No music, no screens. Just you, with you. Silence is uncomfortable at first, yes. But it's like a cold shower, unpleasant at the start, but it wakes you up inside. And finally, try writing by hand instead of consuming. It doesn't matter if it's a sentence or a paragraph. When you write, you clarify, you organize, you take control of your mind. And that is profoundly Stoic. Because if you don't protect your attention, you end up living on someone else's schedule. And instead of building your life, you just react to theirs. So, are you going to keep giving your mind away to the noise? Or are you ready to reclaim it, my friend? Dare to do it. Come back to yourself. Trust me, it's worth it. Lesson 26. Let the results speak. In a small room, lit only by the dim light streaming through the window, a man worked in silence. He spent hours observing, adjusting, perfecting every detail of his painting. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. Only he understood the magnitude of what he was creating. Day after day, he applied new layers of paint with almost obsessive precision. He studied the light, the anatomy, the subtle movements of muscles in a smile. While other artists announced their new works to the world, he kept his project a secret. He wasn't looking for applause. He didn't care about validation before it was time. His only priority was his work. Weeks passed, then months, then years. 4 years later, the masterpiece was ready. An enigmatic smile, a blurred background, a revolutionary technique. Leonardo da Vinci had dedicated thousands of hours to creating his painting, without distractions, without boasting, without seeking approval. While others talked, he worked. While others sought recognition, he sought perfection. And so, in complete silence, Leonardo da Vinci created the Mona Lisa. And you, what do you do? Do you announce your plans before you even start, or do you work in silence? It's happened to you before, hasn't it? How many times have you enthusiastically declared a new project, a life change, a goal? I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to learn how to invest, and then nothing. Months go by and everything stays the same. But what if I told you it's not that you lack discipline, that your mind actually played a trick on you? Yes, you heard that right. There's a reason behind it. Every time you tell someone your plans, your brain releases dopamine. You know what that is, right? It's the same substance that activates when you actually accomplish something. In other words, by talking about what you will do, your mind believes you've already made progress, and the motivation fades before you even take the first step. That's why most people talk and talk about their goals but never achieve them. Their satisfaction comes from recognition, not real progress. But do you know who didn't fall into this trap? Epictetus. He himself said, "Don't boast about what you're going to do. Do it and let it show." That's how he lived. He didn't seek external validation. He didn't announce his plans. He simply worked in silence and let his efforts speak for him. His focus was on action, not approval. Now tell me, how many times has this happened to you? You decide that this time you're really going to get in shape. You buy gym clothes, take pictures, tell your friends. You get encouraging comments. You feel motivated. But when it's time to go, you don't feel like it anymore. Your brain already got its reward without doing the work. The same thing happens with any goal: learning a language, starting a business, changing habits. If you talk about it too much, you trick yourself into staying in the same place. So, are you ready to let the results speak for themselves? First, go into stealth mode. Don't talk about what you're going to do. Talk about what you did. Instead of announcing that you're going to write a book, write in silence and let someone see your finished manuscript one day. Instead of telling everyone you're changing your body, let them notice it without needing an explanation. Next, use mini rewards. It's normal to want motivation during the process, but find private gratifications. Celebrate internally when you complete a week of discipline, when you make progress on your project. The satisfaction of seeing real progress is worth far more than empty applause. And finally, do the mirror test. Before seeking external validation, look at yourself and ask, did I actually make progress today? If the answer is yes, you don't need anyone else to know. If the answer is no, then the only thing you should do is take action, not talk. My friend, at the end of the day, there are only two paths: talking or doing. Stop telling the world your plans. Work hard. Focus on yourself, and the results will come. Lesson 27. Do you know where you're headed? Yes, I know. It might sound like a silly question, but it's not. Do you remember what happened to the Titanic? It was the best cruise ship in the world, the most beautiful, the biggest, the most powerful. They said it was unsinkable, but we both know how that turned out, right? A simple navigation error sent everything overboard. That mistake, so small on the surface, ended up sinking it. Don't let the same thing happen to you. Because yes, just like the Titanic, you might have a shining image on the outside, a life full of achievements, applause, and recognition. But if you don't know where you're headed, you'll crash into your own iceberg. And no, you don't have to be sinking to realize it. You just have to start paying attention. Tell me the truth. Haven't you ever felt like everything looks fine on the outside, but inside, it's a different story? You go through the motions, do what's expected, but deep down, something feels off. Like you're on autopilot, moving forward without knowing if you're actually heading toward what you want, or just toward what you've been told you should want. Like the Titanic, confidently sailing forward, but unable to avoid its own catastrophe. How much longer are you going to keep going with a course you didn't choose? Because even if the ship doesn't sink today, the emptiness only grows deeper. As Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. And he couldn't have been more right. We're trained to look outward, to compete, compare, produce, to be that gleaming Titanic that dazzles all the other ships but never stops to check if it's actually headed in the right direction. Picture yourself for a moment every morning. You wake up, and the first thing you do is check your phone. Messages, emails, notifications. Then you rush through breakfast, thinking about what needs to get done, what people expect from you. Hours pass, and you haven't asked yourself even once, what do I want today? Why am I doing this? And of course, by the time night comes, it all feels like chaos. You were busy, but not present, rushed, but directionless. Sound familiar? And honestly, we've all been there. Have you ever felt like the world is collapsing on top of you? Everything comes at once. Calls, tasks, demands. And there you are, running without pause. In those moments, you've got two options. Keep swallowing it all without thinking, mind burnt out, heart asleep, or stop. Yes, stop for just 5 minutes. Go for a walk, let the sun hit your face, look up at the sky. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Because between the noise and the calm, you can always choose the path that brings you back to yourself. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by war, political chaos, betrayal. And still, every morning he'd take a moment to write in his journal, to remind himself who he was, what values guided him, what kind of man he wanted to be. The life of each of us is what our thoughts make it, he wrote. And he wasn't speaking from theory, but from the battlefield, from the heart of chaos. Even he who ruled an empire needed to return to his center. So what about you? Don't you think you could use that moment of clarity too, before you crash into yourself? Try it. Copy Marcus Aurelius's most powerful habit. Every morning, write down what you want to build with your day. Just one sentence. You don't need a 100-page journal. Just one clear intention to remind you of your course. You can also pause for 5 minutes at midday and ask yourself, am I going in the right direction, or am I just rushing ahead with no real purpose? That simple check-in might save you from another chaotic day. And above all, listen to your intuition more than to other people's opinions. If your inner compass is off, it doesn't matter how many external maps you follow. You'll never reach your true destination. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's self-mastery. It's taking control of your life before someone else does it for you. Because if you don't know where you're going, any distraction can throw you off course. Any careless moment can be the iceberg that sinks you. Now, my friend, if you're ready to set a new course, go ahead and write in the comments. Starting today, I'll be the captain of my ship. That will be your commitment to yourself. Lesson 28. Learn to be alone. Ah, my friend, being alone. Scary, isn't it? But what if I told you it's the secret used by some of the greatest minds in history? It's not complicated. It doesn't require natural talent, yet most people can't do it. Nikola Tesla understood this perfectly. It wasn't just his intelligence or his ability to innovate. His true secret was solitude. He spent hours and hours in deep introspection, without distractions, without external noise. and it was in those moments that some of his greatest ideas were born. Tesla knew one thing for sure: the mind is sharpest and most creative in uninterrupted solitude. Now let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly alone? And I don't mean just being away from people. I mean being without distractions, without your phone in your hand, without music, without filling every second with noise. The problem is that most people don't know how to be alone. And worse, they run from it, as if being alone would awaken some dark version of themselves. As if they were Dr. Jekyll, terrified that their inner Mr. Hyde might take control. But the truth is, there's no monster inside you. There are only parts of yourself that you've been avoiding, and maybe it's time to bring them into the light. Think about it. If you don't enjoy your own company, how can you expect others to? The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Seneca was clear. Nothing is more powerful than a mind that relies on itself. What did he mean? That if you constantly need validation from others, if you can't stand silence, if you're afraid to face your own thoughts, then you're not free. You're a prisoner of distraction. And this isn't an exaggeration. A study from the University of Virginia proved it in the most brutal way possible. They gathered a group of people in a room and gave them two choices: stay in silence, completely alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes, or give themselves electric shocks. The result will shock you. Most people chose to receive electric shocks rather than be alone with their own minds. Sounds impossible to believe, right? Let me ask you something. What would you have chosen? Think about it. Today, solitude is seen as something negative. You go to a restaurant and see someone eating alone. What does most of society think? Poor guy, he has no friends. But what if that person simply enjoys their own company without needing external validation? What if they feel complete without depending on anyone else? If you don't learn to be alone, you will never be your priority. You will always be waiting for other people's approval, for messages, for notifications, for external noise. And the worst part? The more you avoid solitude, the more afraid you'll be of facing it. So here's something you can start doing today. Try a silent day. Dedicate an entire day to yourself, free from external distractions. Turn off notifications, leave your headphones at home, and go for a walk without anything to distract you. If you've never done it before, be prepared. It might feel uncomfortable at first. And if you're up for an even bigger challenge, do something alone on purpose. Go to the movies by yourself, sit at a cafe, take a short trip without relying on anyone else. Pay attention to how you feel. At first it might seem strange, but you know what? Once you learn to be alone, you'll find it harder to be around people. And if it feels too difficult, it's time to ask yourself some hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? Am I happy with my own company, or do I need constant noise to avoid thinking? Learning to be alone is not a punishment. It's a privilege. Because when you finally enjoy your own company, you stop seeking validation from others. You stop depending on external noise, and for the first time, you become your own center. That's when you start building the life you truly want. So tell me, are you going to keep running from solitude, or will you use it to become stronger, more focused, and more unstoppable than ever? Coming back to yourself, that's what changes everything. Because when you choose yourself, when you focus on you and stop living for others, something inside you wakes up. And from that moment on, everything starts to shift. You don't need to get it perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start putting yourself first, listening to yourself, setting boundaries, making decisions for you, and because of you. And if you take one step every day, no matter how small, I promise you'll look back and barely recognize the person you're becoming. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "I've been lost for too long. Today, I choose myself." The fact that you've made it to the end says a lot about your commitment to yourself. And that's what builds real strength, day by day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it with them. Click the videos on screen and let's keep walking this path together.